Good evening. This meeting is being held in pursuant to Executive Order N2920 issued by California Governor Gavin Newsom on March 12, 2020. Any and all board members may attend this meeting by phone. Members of the public may attend here at the Fairfield Sassoon Central Office to observe and provide public comment during this meeting. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Superintendent, may we have a report of action taken in closed session?
Thank you, Board President Richardson. In the matter of conference with labor negotiators, no action was taken. In the matter of public employment, it is my honor to say that the board officially appointed 6 aye, 1 no, Ana Patero, for Lexi Rhodes as behavior analyst effective July 1st. I think Lexi is on our Google Meet or watching. We have a picture of her, and I'm going to have it brought up, and I'm going to read a little bit about Lexi. We are so excited to have Lexi Rhodes join us as a licensed behavior analyst. In her new role, Lexi will provide direct and consultation services to students, staffs, and parents in support of pro-social behavior. She will also conduct behavior assessments, develop and implement intervention plans, and establish and maintain relationships with stakeholders. She joins FSUSD from Creative Behavior Connections in Las Vegas, Nevada, where she has served as the Assistant Director of ABA Services since 2019. Before working with Creative Behavior Connections, she worked as a program director at First Steps for Kids in Walnut Creek, California, a behavior interventionist at Autism Spectrum Therapies in Pleasanton, California, and a special education aide within the Piedmont Unified School District. She has a very sound clinical background and a passion for teaching as she facilitated staff development training and serves the online academic associate for behavior analysts at Arizona State University. She earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from CSU East Bay and her Master's of Arts in Counseling Psychology from the University of San Francisco, and went on to earn her certificate in behavior analysis from Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne, Florida. We are so pleased to have Lexi Rhodes join Fairfield Sassoon as a licensed behavior analyst. Welcome. Clap for her. Next, by unanimous vote, our board has officially appointed Ms. Rebecca Dinwiddie as Fairfield High Principal beginning July 1, 2021. And I think Rebecca is here with us, so she's here today. We're so excited to have Rebecca Dinwiddie as the principal at Fairfield High School for the 2021-2022 school year. She will bring her leadership skills to serve the students and staff at Fairfield High. Ms. Dinwiddie joined Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District as an elementary teacher at Oakbrook Elementary before it was the Academy of the Arts. And then she went on to become a weirdo at David Weir Elementary School, where she taught 5th through 8th grade. In December of 2014, she transitioned to an assistant principal position at Nelda Mundy, and then became the assistant principal of B. Gale Wilson School. In 2017, she was appointed as principal of B. Gale Wilson, and she led the school through many challenging times and raised the profile of that campus. Below is an excerpt from one of her recommendations. Rebecca has a number of skills which make her an excellent matter, and that their voice is heard. She uses data to inform and support student academic success. Ms. Dinwiddie is a longtime FSUSD employee with an exceptional reputation. She went through a very rigorous interview process, and she is so excited to have the opportunity to lead Fairfield High School and is committed to the school and the district. She earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in liberal studies from CSU Sacramento, and then went on to continue her education and earn her multiple teaching subject credential in December of 2004. She completed her academic service credential program and her master's in educational leadership from Sonoma State University. We are so excited, and I don't know if we're as excited as she is, but because she's pretty excited to have her lead Fairfield High School. Congratulations, Rebecca. And there is no other action taken in closed session.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. I will forego the opening statement today, and we're going to move to item 4, communication and information. We're going to begin with recognitions. I'm going to turn this over, and we're going to begin with our student board member, Chantel Martino, and then Helen Tilley will cover the remaining acknowledgements. Student board member Martino, you can begin.
Thank you. First, we have Maximiliano Gonzalez Barba, a 12th grader from Early College High School, who has been selected as one of the district's Students of the Month for April 2021. Max embodies the ideal early college student in so many ways. He has shown his dedication to the early college program through tutoring and leadership. He has also worked 2 jobs throughout his time at early college to help out his family and save for future college expenses. He also volunteers at the food bank and maintains high grades in all his high school and college courses. Max always has a positive attitude, is willing to help out in any way possible, and has a strong concern for others. In addition, Max is a member of the ECHS Hope Club, Key Club, Honor Society, Academic Decathlon Team, and the FSUSD Student Advisory Council. Next year, Max plans to attend UC Merced. He is well on his way to becoming the first college graduate in his family and has the goal of becoming a physician. We congratulate you, Maximiliano Gonzalez Barba, for being honored tonight as one of the district's Students of the Month for April.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, board members, and members of the community. My name is Maximiliano. I'm quite honored and very thankful for the opportunity to be the Early College Student of the Year and one of the FSUSD Students of the Month. I'd like to thank my dad for putting food on the table, my mother for taking care of me at home, all of the staff and teachers at Early College, and, of course, my fellow classmates and friends. All of these people have allowed me to become the person that I am today, and I can't express enough how much I appreciate all of them. I am on track to continue my education after high school, and I'm sure that without the help of everybody around me, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.
President Richardson? I'll commence. Okay. Cadet Victoria Alvarado, a 12th grader from the Public Safety Academy, has been selected as one of the district's Students of the Month for April 2021. Victoria demonstrates a strong commitment to academic excellence. She has challenged herself by enrolling in multiple advanced placement courses throughout high school and has maintained a GPA of 4.1 despite the challenges of the pandemic. My mask is slipping. Sorry, Victoria. Additionally, Victoria is an effective leader. She has been an active member of ASB leadership since her freshman year and currently serves as president of ASB, Key Club, and the Latino and Hispanic Club. She also represents PSA on the district student advisory board. Victoria has persevered through obstacles during her high school career but never gave up. Despite her busy school schedule, she even started her own business last year to help raise funds for her family. Victoria plans to pursue a career in the healthcare field with the goal of earning a master's degree at UC San Diego and becoming a physician's assistant in dermatology. With her determination, focus, and passion, she will certainly be successful in achieving her goals. We congratulate you, Victoria, for being honored tonight as one of the district's Students of the Month for April 2021.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, members of the board, and community members. I would like to thank you for giving me the honor to be one of the FSUSD Student of the Month, specifically for the month of April. I would like to give a special thanks to my teachers from PSA who have nominated me for this award and who have always never failed to be there for me when I most needed them, for also believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself, and overall just providing me with the best education possible. With the leadership experience I have gained over the past 4 years in addition to this title, I hope to continue to be a positive influence to other students, to continue to strive for whatever their goal is, and to never give up. With this award, I also hope to represent the Latino community and be an addition to the Latino success story. Last but not least, I would like to give a special thanks to my friends and family who have never failed to be alongside of me, to always push me to be the best version of myself possible, and to be another positive addition to our community. Once again, I would like to give a special thanks to Superintendent Coy, Board President Richardson, members of the board, and community members for giving me the honor to give this speech and having the honor to receive this award for the Student of the Month. Thank you.
That concludes our recognitions. We are excited for our students and their achievements and how they become role models for their peers in their achievement and encouraging them to move forward to academic success. We're going to move to item 4B, which is the presentation of the student representative video reports. I'm going to turn this over to Chantel Martino.
Actually, these are just
Oh,
videos.
Good
disregard.
evening,
These are just
President
videos.
Richardson, Superintendent Corey, members of the governing board, and community. I am Cameron Moore, Fairfield High's Associated Student Body President for the 2020 to 2021 school year. Even with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have been able to connect and display Fairfield High's greatness to the community. 8th grade students and families from around the district joined our elective teachers and student presenters for virtual registration night. Between March 1st and March 4th, students were presented with the various CTE pathways and elective options such as home economics, AFJROTC, digital production art, and my personal favorite, leadership. Additionally, the counseling staff were able to register the incoming students for the 2021 to 2022 school year. Many questions were asked and we answered, giving satisfaction to not only the students but the parents as well. One of the CTE pathways, sports medicine, has been shining on campus and within the community. Sports medicine was represented at the Health Occupation Students of American Regional Competitive event. This event took place on February 24th and 26th. Our Falcons did amazing, with 6 students moving on from the regional competition to the state level. This competition allowed for a select number of students to come onto campus, and we even had some staff members socially distanced to cheer them on. Our leadership class hosted a game night virtually. Over 70 Falcons joined for an evening of playing Among Us, a popular game played by many staff and students on campus. Although virtual, it gave students the opportunity to socialize with others. Currently, our leadership students are working on our annual Staff Appreciation Week, creating staff superlative awards, we miss you messages, and a slideshow honoring staff and all of their hard work. We have various different activities planned that staff members can participate in, such as a cooking competition inspired by the TV show Guy's Grocery Games, skits, and singing competitions. I can't wait to see what the teachers come up with. Over the second semester, FHS has around 30 students working on campus to complete their distance learning classes. Students who have been coming to work from campus have reported higher grades. In the 11th grade social studies classes, students participated in the California Healthy Kids Survey. As Fairfield High is preparing for the hybrid model, our students are very eager to come back on campus. Campus monitors and custodial staff have been working diligently to get classrooms set up to meet COVID protocols. Fairfield High is now gearing up for the end of the school year and the beginning of graduation season, with cap and gown pickups and senior awards. With that being said, I look forward to presenting to you all again in the future. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Superintendent Correa, Board President Richardson, board members, and the community. My name is Maria Alvarado. I am a recent graduate of the Fairfield Susan Adult School. I'm honored to be speaking here this evening and to be selected to share on behalf of the great Fairfield Susan Adult School. Over the past year, we've all been passengers on the roller coaster named COVID-19. We have experienced many challenges and change, ups and downs. Though we don't know the future holds many more, the one thing hasn't changed is the commitment to the students' achievement at the Fairfield Susan Adult School. In the 2021, we conquered a lot and are very proud of the 46 high school diploma, GED, and certificate of completion graduates so far this year. We have overcome barriers, and we want to recognize our 216 currently enrolled English as a second language learners. We have persevered beyond expectations, and we want to show appreciation for our 33 currently enrolled adult basic education students. We have accomplished so much, and we want to send a shout out to our 17 CNA enrolled students and graduates who are committed to our health and well-being of our community. We've been raising together, and we want to thank our parent education program for building a stronger community by bridging the role between parent, teacher, and school. We bonded at the school and are so excited about our welding program and our students taking their hands on their experience to further their skills that will pay the bills. Accounting students, Excel students, sterilized processing students, continuing education students, clinical medical assistant students, phlebotomy students, emergency medical technician students. Yes, we are celebrating every single one of you. Most importantly, we have fallen and failed together, but we're being there to help each other back up, dust each other up, and push forward. Bottom line, don't give up. We don't know what the rest of the 2021 will bring, but we do know is we are on this together, and we all continue to be an institution that will always support students' achievement. Lastly, please don't forget to celebrate your wins.
So my name is Yeseli Rivera Lleras. I am a senior and here on behalf of Semillero High School with some exciting information. Semillero students continue to take adjustments to the daily schedule as we switch from 6 periods per day to 3 periods per day. At the beginning of fourth quarter, we made this switch prior to our return to in-person instruction to help students and staff adjust to the hybrid schedule, which started on April 12th. The administration also made videos and shared with staff and students regarding how to safely navigate campus while following COVID protocols. We also had 2 town hall meetings to discuss options for graduation. One meeting was with parents while the other was with seniors. This was an opportunity for parents and students to gather information and discuss the potential options of this monument event. Beginning April 25th, Semiero will be having the West visit. The panels will be taking place on April 27th, and I look forward to taking part in the student panel. I'm excited to see what this process is all about. Although my senior year was not what I expected to be, my fellow classmates and I are persevering through this and making the best of it. I look forward to what the rest of the year has to offer. Thank you and have a great evening.
We are thankful for our students and their presentations that represent their respective campuses. And we look forward to hearing the great and phenomenal things that are to come as our students continue to reach towards success and the greatness that's before them. We're moving to item 4C, which is the presentation of student voices. This time, I am now turning over our meeting to student board member Chantel Martino and her colleague Jacob Francisco. You can begin your presentation.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. My name is Chantel Martino, a senior at Armio High School. Tonight, the Student Advisory Council and I will be speaking about mental health within FSUSD and the initiatives we have taken to bring awareness to this very important topic. First, we will be recapping the December 2020 mental health check-in that was shared to students and presented to the governing board later that month. I will now pass it on to Jacob Francisco to speak about this topic.
Thank you, Chantel. Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. My name is Jacob Francisco, a senior at Early College High School. As mentioned, we wanted to start tonight off with a recap of the last Student Voices presentation that was given on the December 15, 2020 governing board meeting. With the presentation, we were able to explore the connection between mental health and distance learning after reviewing some results from a survey that was sent out to all students in the district in November 2020. With 1,605 responses from the students, we were able to see a clear connection of the decrease in mental health as well as a great impact due to distance learning. To illustrate, we asked on a scale of 1 to 10, how was your mental health as of November 2020, as schools are in 100% distance learning. 30% of students reported feeling a 4 or below, and only 50% of students reported feeling 7 or above. That's about a 10% drop from the previous question that we asked. Some potential solutions that were proposed were the Gen Up Student Bill of Rights resolution, having mental health days for students, having a mental health awareness month, having trained tutoring provided by DEN, suggestions regarding schoolwork, and technological and additional support. I now want to pass it on to Ali Tobias to discuss the many resources the district has to offer.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. My name is Ali Tobias. I'm a senior at Fairfield High School. So along with the potential solutions proposed in the previous slide, there are already established resources in our district that further support the students' mental health. These resources include Care Solace, virtual wellness centers, and counselor meetings. Firstly, Care Solace is an online navigation system that connects students, staff, and families to compatible mental health care resources at no cost. In addition, virtual wellness centers stationed at multiple school sites offer a safe place for students to come and discuss what is on their mind and receive mental health support. Similarly, counselor meetings also offer a support system for students. However, it is more personal and private as it is one-on-one. Overall, these resources significantly benefit the well-being of the student body as a whole. However, not many students know of these resources. Therefore, the Student Advisory Council recommends that the district starts with reducing the stigma around mental health. With the reduced stigma around mental health, students will find it easier to seek out resources without feeling embarrassed. This reduced stigma campaign could range from videos that may be produced to more content that showcases what mental health is, while also spreading resources in the same ways. I would now like to pass it on to Mashika Marema to talk about the Student Advisory Council's meetings with FSUSD counselors.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, Governing Board members, and members of the community. My name is Mashika Marema, a junior at Early College High School. On the 13th of January, 2021, the Student Advisory Council had the chance to meet with school counselors all around the Fairfield Unified School District. During the meeting, we were able to understand what each school site offers when it comes to counseling. The majority of counselors have a Google Classroom designated for counseling. In the classroom, students could sign up for appointments using Google Calendar and other systems of contact. All counselors provided their email and phone number for any student to contact. By communicating with counselors, we learned that in order for students to take advantage of the mental health resources, students need to be able to know what their school provides when it comes to counseling and also self-advocate for themselves. Now, we'll be discussing the initiatives of the Student Advisory Council has planned to take during the 2020-2021 school year. I would now like to pass it on to Arya Sharma Vats, who will talk more specifically on the initiatives the Student Advisory Council has taken.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, Governing Board members, and members of the community. My name is Arya Sharma-Vats, and I am an 8th grader at Green Valley Middle School. Let's start with tutoring. We took this tutoring practice class where we were introduced to some professors who helped us understand better what tutoring is and how to tutor. We did something to help us tutor, starting by a true color quiz. This quiz told us what color personality we had. We also talked about what type of relationships to have with our scholars. We even played a game where we wrote 3 words that describe the personalities we like to show people and what we don't like to show people. And we also talked about what scholars might have gone through and how we can help them. We haven't yet started tutoring scholars yet, but we are looking forward to tutoring scholars in the future. Secondly, let's talk about Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental Health Awareness Month is a very important month, especially due to distance learning, and because of its importance and role in distance learning, we'll be talking about how we are planning to set up the Mental Health Awareness Month, hope to achieve it, and how helpful it is to students. Now I'll pass it on to Ishan Kulkarni, who will talk more about the Mental Health Awareness Month.
Thank you, Arya. Your information about DEN was fantastic. Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, Governing Board members, and members of the community. My name is Ishan Kulkarni, and I'm a 6th grader at Green Valley Middle School. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Mental Health Awareness Month, which is the topic all of us are working on. The main intention of Mental Health Awareness Month is to improve mental health for all members of our society. Let me start by introducing the plan for Mental Health Awareness Month. Each week, there's a specific topic that is posted on social media for our Mental Health Awareness Month. The topics that are going to be there on social media for our Mental Health Awareness Month are stigma surrounding mental health, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, ADHD, and OCD. The weeks that we're going to be doing social media posts for Mental Health Awareness Month are going to be from April 12th to April 16th, April 19th to April 23rd, and April 26th to April 30th. We would like to bring awareness to these topics to not only educate members of our district and community, but also let students, staff, and the community know that they are not alone. We would like to provide them with as many resources as we can to support them. Mental health can sometimes deteriorate, and it is vital that no individual feels lonely. Now I'm going to pass it on to Alyssa Matrano next, who's going to be talking about the potential ideas for Mental Health Awareness Month.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, Governing Board members, and members of the community. My name is Alyssa Madrano, a 6th grader at Grange Middle School. In SAC, we are focusing on mental health. We have come up with potential ideas for Mental Health Awareness Month. We have made a motivational quote remind. It's where we post quotes that will inspire students to work harder towards their goals or to help them believe that they are capable of getting there. We also have informational posts about mental health topics on Instagram. We post a variety of information about mental health topics. It helps to promote student knowledge on mental health. It runs through SAC's current Instagram account. There are new posts made about once to twice a week. Now I'm going to pass it on to Daniela Gonzalez.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. My name is Daniela Gonzalez, a junior at Army High School. Today, I'll be talking about another initiative that the Student Advisory Council came up with for our Mental Health Awareness Month. The Student Advisory Council has invited guest speakers every Friday for the month of April to talk about topics that surround mental health. Guest speakers include counselors and mental health clinicians, such as Rebecca Lusk, Estrella Rosales, Victoria Escobar, Debbie Wilson, Jacob Littman, Heather Toll, Carrie Farinas, and Karina Colantoni. They will all provide a 10-minute presentation and a 5-minute Q&A session to answer questions about the stigma surrounding mental health, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, ADHD, OCD, and any other potential question that could help us promote student knowledge on mental health. Since mental health is important to students' overall well-being and health, it is essential that the district reduces the stigma surrounding mental health. It is okay for people to go through different problems, but we need to show students the proper outlets in which they can find solutions to the problems and or find ways to show all the resources available to them. Part of this reluctance comes from the lack of knowledge and information regarding the resources that the district has to offer. And we also recommend that the district use social media to reach students and make them aware and knowledgeable regarding the resources they have at their disposal. I will now it on to Micah Schmidt, to speak on another initiative that the Student Advisory Council came up with for the mental health awareness.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. My name is Micah Schmidt, a junior at Early College High School. There is a Remind being run by students in our district that is available for everyone to join. The Remind will be used to send out motivational quotes and different pictures of animals. Its purpose is to give students something to look forward to every day and to boost student morale. It's also being advertised through Instagram. I would now like to pass it on to Avneet Sidhu, who will be giving more initiatives for our Mental Health Awareness Month.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. My name is Avneet Sidhu, a 6th grader at Green Valley Middle School. Jumping into this, we took initiative and made a Kindness Week task list. This will be open to students to complete throughout the district during the week of April 19th through 23rd. We have also made video tips for students on how to manage their workload, due to time management being key to self-care. I will now like to pass it to Caroline Kelleher.
Thank you, Avneet. Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. My name is Caroline Kelleher. I'm a junior at Armio High School. We've discussed various other possible mental health support initiatives that we would certainly hope to see be implemented very soon. We would like to have a Google Meet panel similar to a town hall format, where students can discuss various topics surrounding mental health with some mental health professionals. We strongly believe this direct communication and question and answer session will be beneficial for students and help them with any questions they may have. Additionally, we want to have a Google Meet support group where students can discuss mental health with students from all grade levels and feel comfortable sharing in a safe space with one another. Finally, we want to introduce various self-care activities, including exercise, art, and baking tutorials. These calming activities will provide a relaxing and creative outlet for students, which will help better their mental health. Thank you. I would now like to pass it on to Miriam Oladell.
Thank you, Caroline. Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. My name is Miriam Oladell, a junior at Armio High School. As reiterated throughout the presentation, student mental health has been and will remain a very important topic, not only to us as students, but to the community as well. The district has several mental health resources such as Care Solace, virtual wellness centers, and counselor meetings, but Student Advisory Council plans to make more resources available to students, circulate informational posts regarding mental health, and host panels and much more throughout this Mental Health Awareness Month. I will now be passing it back to Chantel Martino to wrap up the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam, and thank you for listening to our presentation. We would now like to open it up to board discussion.
Thank you so much, board colleagues. Do you have any questions for our student representatives relative to their presentation? Board Member Tilley.
Thank you. Chantel, I'm just wondering, it looks like there was a pretty a lengthy wish list for assistance in providing additional services to our students. Do the student groups, do they need the board's help or dedication of resources to achieve those goals?
Yes, we would very much like the board's support in achieving those goals. I think having the board and the superintendent to be there to support us will be not only beneficial to the Student Advisory Council achieving its goals, but to the students throughout the district as well.
Thank you, and to all of the students, thank them for the collaboration as well as the great information.
Board Member Isom.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to, first of all, give kudos to all of these incredible student leaders, especially Chantel. Thank you for your commitment and dedication and service to this board and for representing the way you do the students that you do represent. We are always impressed with hearing from you. We're always impressed when we get to hear what we need to do to help you guys become more successful students. And so we pledge, as we have before, and you know that this is true, those things that you all have asked for in the past, we have done because it's important. And so thank you for having the courage to present, and we will support you. I know that.
Board Member Smith.
So I sent you guys a couple of questions ahead of time, and you did such a good job in your presentation that I only want to ask one of them. So I'm curious, you mentioned adapting kind of the outreach and social media so that students know about the resources that are available to them. Do you have any sort of specific examples? Because when I'm hearing you say this, I'm thinking along the lines of don't use Facebook, use Instagram or something to that effect. Is that kind of along the lines of what you're thinking of?
Yes. So around this time, a lot of students tend to use social media such as Instagram and Twitter. So I think it would be beneficial if the district could also use those to reach more students. But I think we should also use the other outlets such as Facebook, since there may be students that don't use Instagram or don't use Twitter. And even then, we can also work with individual school sites so that students that don't have social media at all can be reached with those certain social media, or not social media, mental health resources.
Board Member Patero.
Thank you, President Richardson. And to echo my colleagues, I want to thank you all for your presentation. And also thank you for your examples of academic excellence and tremendous work ethic that you're passing on to the students who will be following you in your footsteps. You've all set such a high standard with your leadership, and much congratulations to those of you who are graduating this year. Thank you.
Board Member Isom, did you have another question? I see your hand
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry. No, let me lower my hand.
I would like to just say that it's important to acknowledge the leadership capacity that each of you have taken and accepted in presenting not just to the board, but to the community. I can only imagine what I would be doing today if I only had the same opportunities that have been presented to you today when I was coming through my academic ranks. So today, I commend each of you. I commend you, Chantel Martino, for your leadership and for bringing together and galvanizing a group of students who ultimately will be phenomenal leaders. And because of that, we are extremely thankful that each of you have been empowered to see bigger than just a classroom. So thank you for your contribution. We would like to move forward to item D, Measure J projects past, present, and future. We will turn this over to Mr. Paul Speed for a presentation.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. I'm happy to be here to talk about all the updates that we have for the Measure J projects over the last 5 years and into the future. As you know, voters supported and passed Measure J's $249 million bond in June of 2016. First and foremost, we need to thank the voters for their support of Measure J and making this a reality for our community. In 2016, we held our first bond sale, second in 2018, and our final bond sale was in March of 2020. Since the first bond sale in 2016, we have completed 14 projects, have 5 currently under construction, 3 in design, and 2 that are scheduled to start design in 2022. These projects have addressed a number of district priorities, including but not limited to modernizations, safety and security issues, replacing portables with permanent buildings, adding new libraries, and replacing outdated restrooms. As the old saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and the pictures in this presentation are even better in person. So I encourage you to go see the spaces if you have not already done so. As you can see at Suisun Valley, one of our early projects, we converted an open area that flooded during the winter into a much needed parking lot for staff, students, and pick up and drop off for parents. At PSA, we replaced their inadequate 1,200 square foot library by constructing an 11,900 square foot library building, which includes an additional 3 classrooms. We also constructed a new gym with a locker room and weight rooms. At Suisun Valley, we constructed a new 8,000 square foot library and innovation lab to replace the original library that was housed in a space less than 960 square feet, which is a standard classroom. With the Tolina's kitchen expansion, we took an inadequate kitchen that was so small that the coolers and fridges and dry storage were kept in the NPR and converted it into a space that child nutrition can be proud of. We built a new admin and kinder complex at KI Jones, which now allows a better flow for the campus and requires all visitors to check in at the front office, which gives us an increase in safety and security. It better facilitates parking for our guests and teachers. We also opened up the existing quad to give the students an incredible outdoor learning area off of the new innovation lab. The library was also extended as part of this project and increased the size of collaboration within the space. As you can see by the slide on the right, at Sheldon Academy, it is nearly a new school. It's hard to express how impressive the change is to this campus when you walk out to the playground and see the line of sight. With the expansion of the play area, new lawn, and the location of the new classroom building, you can see the entire play area and where students are accessing it. We modernized the existing admin classroom building at Sheldon, giving the site a new entry plaza and welcoming entry point that is visibly front and center. As you can see at the picture on the left, the former entry point was difficult to find as it was located on the side of the building. We built a new 6,000 square foot library with innovation lab to replace the old library that was housed in a portable building. And we replaced 16 of our 18 portable classrooms with a new 24,000 square foot 2-story classroom building. At Fairview, we constructed a new library and innovation lab building to replace the original library that was housed in a portable also. We modernized all classrooms, and like KI Jones, we constructed a new admin kinder complex. At Grange, students at Grange had never had an indoor dining area. So we constructed a 13,000 square foot student center with new kitchen, dining area, and innovation lab. We also built a new locker room onto the existing gym. We modernized their library and converted their old NPR into 2 science classrooms with a works room in between. Our present projects that we have going on, first and foremost would be Oak Brook. Oak Brook is the first of our current construction projects within their new performing arts building, which will give students a new 1,625 square foot stage to perform on, which will replace the existing 198 square foot stage currently housed in their NPR. There will be seating for 400 and will have a control booth and green room. Oak Brook's performing arts building is scheduled to be complete in August of this year. Sullivan School, Increment 1, which started a couple of weeks ago, consists of constructing a new parking lot and modernizing the library building, and is scheduled to be complete at the end of September of this year. We're constructing a new permanent student restroom building at K.I. Jones that is scheduled to be complete in September of this year. It will also have a staff restroom in the building. We started construction on the expansion of the Cleo Gordon parking lot and are relocating their existing portables to make room for the construction, make room for increment housing for the construction of Increment 2. Cleo Gordon is scheduled to be complete, Increment 1, in August of 2021. We opened bids for Increment 1 at Fairfield High School today, which includes a new vehicle access road to separate vehicles from the student pathways. We're also renovating the varsity baseball field, constructing a new JV baseball field, JV softball field, and varsity softball field. We had 6 bidders today, and the apparent low bidder being $1.5 million below our estimate, which was really good news. We're currently designing Increment 2 at Cleo Gordon that will include a new library and classroom building and modernization of the office and entry. Increment 2 at Cleo is scheduled to bid in the fall of this year. Sullivan, we're also designing Increment 2 for bidding in spring of 2022. That will include modernizing and reconfiguring the office and entry, modernization of classroom spaces, new permanent restroom building, and new play structures. In spring of 2022, we will be bidding Increment 2 of Fairfield High School, with construction scheduled to begin in June of 2022. This project will include a 25,000 square foot performing arts building with seating for 500, entry lobby, catwalk, control room, classroom space, and orchestra pit. We will be relocating and modernizing the weight room, sports medicine, and leadership classrooms, along with expanding the kitchen. Future projects that we are planning to start design are BGL Wilson gym and changing rooms, and the Public Safety Academy. We will be reconfiguring the main office for secure entrance. These designs will start in spring of next year. I have to give a big thanks to the staff and students and parents that have lived through major construction on their sites. They have been through some major upheaval over, some of them for 2 years. And construction fatigue is a real thing. And they have been very patient and flexible throughout this whole process. And we are so grateful for their cooperation. We'll leave it now to the board for discussion and questions.
Mr. Speed, I must say your presentation pretty much knocked me on the chair, for lack of better terms. The beauty in this is although that we've been able to see these projects happening over the time that we've had the benefit of Measure J, to see it presented the way that it's presented today excites me about what we're doing as a result of the deficiency of how we haven't done it historically as a district over the years. And the fact that we took this opportunity to begin to breathe new life into education. I mean, if you think about it, I'm looking at the entryway to the theater for Fairfield High. That alone brings a whole new attraction to that school has lacked for a significant amount of time. I'm not going to try to speak to every single thing that you've just mentioned and give my board colleagues an opportunity to give their comments. But I just want to say thank you to your team. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you for seeing the vision of the board and helping to bring to fruition not just what the community stakeholders brought to the table in this very boardroom years ago when we were sitting in small groups and talking about the sites and what the needs were, but looking at how it would impact the future and us being prepared to impact the next generation of FSUSD students. So thank you. Board Member Tilley, followed by Board Member Wilson, followed by Board Member Smith.
Thank you, President Richardson. And Director Speed, I just, number one, wanted to applaud you for the before and after presentation. The visual of the Suisun Valley parking swamp versus what's going on over there now was, a picture is worth a million years, or a million words, excuse me. So thank you for that. On the innovation centers that have been built into these amazing libraries at our site, I presume that includes smart boards and access to technology. And as our students are now able to come back into these beautifully remodeled in order to continue in-person learning, it warms my heart to see that they will have a safe and improved environment. Fairfield High School, it was elected and renowned its arts and theater programs. For them to actually have a stage is an accomplishment of great breadth, and we owe a debt of huge gratitude to our community, to our taxpayers who approved the bond that allowed us to enhance and support our students' learning. So thank you so much for this comprehensive visual. Appreciate it.
Board Member Tilley, I'm just going to add that those innovation spaces are designed uniquely to each school, but they do include a lot of technology or writing spaces. They have doors that can open up and expand. And so they're very flexible spaces that can be used in many different ways. So they're pretty exciting.
I also would like to commend the staff and the district, and I hope the community gets a sense that this is a big deal. In a 5-year span of time, it's a $250 million upgrade to the physical facilities of our districts, the schools. And it's dramatic and it's relatively short time, and I suspect unprecedented. I don't know if there's a previous 5 or 6 year span when so much has been upgraded. The old buildings have been modernized and added to, and it's amazing. And I hope the community will take pride in these kinds of physical facilities, and I hope we can continue to maintain and have facilities that the community has pride in. Thank you.
Yeah, I just kind of want to echo a little bit of what Mr. Wilson has said. And sorry, can I ask the visual team to click on my video feed over here? Thank you. My audio is running through a different resource. So I just, your team, Superintendent Corey, your team has put together a really well thorough presentation for us. And I've been on the facilities subcommittee since it started. I think I'm the only member actually who's been on it since it started. But not only that, I was part of the original facilities master plan committee, and then on the Measure J committee when we went out for the bond. And seeing the transition from the level of need, with that master plan committee to, seeing the concept drawings once the voters passed the bond and we really started to plan these. And then fast forwarding through, these completed projects, it's astounding. And some of these photos, I have to say, are so like the concept drawings that I actually have to do a double take. And I'm like, oh, that really is an actual person walking to the building. So anyway, I hope and I believe that the community will find that the district has been good stewards of their taxpayer dollars, and just congrats to the team.
Thank you, Board Member Smith. And I want to end that. There's a delay for some reason. I want to just recognize something that the superintendent said a while back, and I want to make sure the community keeps this in mind. There was over $1 billion of need in this district, over $1 billion. And for us to produce what we produced with a quarter of that, if we could say that, is phenomenal. And to know if we could do it all at once, imagine what our students would have. Imagine what our teachers will have. And at the end of the day, just imagine how much pride we will have generations of students beyond our lifetimes to have access to facilities that will not be outdated for quite some time. So I just didn't want to let that moment pass to acknowledge that at the end of the day, the community should hear that we will continue to need your support, and we hope that in the future, when the time comes to look at how we can further improve our sites, that you'll be ready to join us on another expedition of improving our district and continuing to become that premier learning environment where our students thrive. We're going to move to item. Oh, Board Member Isom, I didn't see your hand earlier. I think you snuck it in. You can go
I
ahead.
did, Mr. President. I just want to say thank you for your comments, because when our superintendent was hired, one of the things that was on the agenda for her hiring was to update these facilities and to get a bond measure passed. So thank you for your comments.
Good.
Thank you. I just want to echo some of the sentiments that were expressed by our board members, and just thank our community for Measure J. Facilities was not my strong suit when I became a superintendent. In fact, I was blissfully ignorant about facilities, and I have learned a great deal. And so my very first year in as a superintendent, I walked every campus, into every closet, every classroom, and I saw that $1 billion worth of need. And so it's really remarkable what our facilities department has accomplished. And I want to reiterate that this is only Measure J. Keep in mind, there have been some major facilities projects that were funded out of other funds. We have Mary Bird, that now is a beautiful early learning education complex. We have a culinary classroom that's being developed at Fairfield High. So there are many other examples. And Mr. Speed and I were talking, and we just want to make sure that we also thank the board for their support, because this was a bumpy journey. When we went into the bond measure, there was a thought that we should have outlined specific projects when we went out for the bond, and that we should say, this is what we're going to accomplish, and check those off the list. And we had to be very flexible, because as we got into some of our older facilities, we discovered some significant issues. And so the board had to readdress and and reapprove priorities that were somewhat contradictory even prior to what we thought we would be doing. And so we want to thank the board for their support in all these efforts. And we look forward to spending the last of these dollars and potentially looking at the possibility of another future bond where we can make up the rest of that $1 billion need. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. We are moving to item E, the written report, the quarterly report on the Williams uniform complaints. There is no presentation. Board colleagues, are there any discussion? Board Member Isom, your hand's up. Is that an old hand up or a new hand up?
Yeah, my hand is stuck. Sorry. Thank you.
Great. We're going to move to item F, which is the employee organization reports. I do see Nancy Dunn, the president of Fsuda, present as she's making her way. If there are any other employee organization representatives present, just wave at me so that I know that you're present. And we will give you your opportunity to provide us with a report. Just a reminder to maintain social distancing and all protocols as recommended by the CDC. And we will now turn this over to Mrs. Nancy Dunn from Fairfield Sassoon Unified Teachers Association.
Are we ready? Go ahead. All right. Good evening, President Richardson, governing board members, Superintendent Corey, and community. I am Nancy Dunn, president of Fairfield Sassoon Unified Teachers Association. In my classroom, I didn't allow a countdown to the end of the school year because I thought it sent the wrong message, that school was something to endure until summer break arrived. This year, I can't help but break my own rule and excitedly state we have 34 more instructional days until this year is over. As I have reported to you many times since March of 2020, Fsuda members are exhausted and stressed, and many feel unsupported. Somehow the narrative shifted from early in the pandemic when teachers were lauded as heroes for keeping students emotionally and physically safe while also advancing their learning, to now being the messenger blamed for all the frustrations caused by the pandemic. Frankly, even those who still provide praise are failing to back up those hollow words with any action to make us feel like we are valued. This is causing a morale problem in our district, which is not new, but is deepening. As one member recently said to me, quote, "I'm tired of being told by management to practice self-care. Perhaps I should be treated in a way that doesn't require so much self-care in the first place." We are learning some people who contract COVID-19 may have long-term health effects. I believe there will be long-term effects on the teaching profession as well. Most researchers agree between 45 and 50% of teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years. That statistic is pre-pandemic, and it's hard to imagine working conditions this year would have led to any improvement in these numbers. That is why it is so important that we do all we can to attract and, more importantly, retain educators in FSUSD. The same is true for our partners in school, our CSEA coworkers, who play a vital role in the education of children. Your employees are the best PR team available to you if we see actions that value our work. Fsuda's annual working conditions survey asks our members if they would recommend FSUSD to a friend as a place to work. Last year, the survey closed when we closed schools in March of 2020. The results were within a percentage point of a 50-50 split. Half the respondents would recommend FSUSD and half would not. We will be surveying our members this year, and it will be interesting to see if those results change. We are happy to share the results when they become available. Finally, I would like to follow up on comments I made at a previous board meeting stating FSUSD's support for the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. As I have stated tonight, actions speak louder than words. Resolutions in support of the AAPI community, Black Lives Matter, and Pride, for example, are a small start turning words into action. We hope when these opportunities are presented to the governing board, it will act on them as has been done in the past. Fsuda is committed to moving from words on paper into real-world activities and practices. We work for our students' future to be a much better than the world we live in. We want a world of awareness and acceptance, inclusivity, and diversity. It is why we are proud to work with Gen Ep in their campaign for ethnic studies courses and with community groups such as Common Ground on a variety of issues important to our underserved and underrepresented community members. We are also looking inward to critique and advance our own systems and structures, and are proud to announce Fsuda was recently chosen to participate in the National Education Association Strategic Initiative Campaign for Community-Based Schools. We know this will make us stronger and more impactful in putting our words into actions. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Nancy Dunn. Thank you, Ms. Dunn, for your report. And I don't believe there are any other employee organizations present, so that we will move into Martino.
Thank you and good evening. For my report tonight, I would first like to highlight the Student Advisory Council meeting that occurred yesterday. We had the pleasure of having Ms. Piazza come in and talk to us about ways that we could expand our presence on social media and get the word out to students about the resources that both the district and Student Advisory Council offers. Student Advisory Council has devoted this month to mental health awareness, in which we have informational social media posts, as well as invited guest speakers to come in and speak about topics surrounding mental health. We have also taken initiatives such as a Kindness Week task list that was promoted on our social media accounts. Student Advisory Council also worked together to create another Student Voices presentation, which was presented earlier this evening. I'm so proud of everything Student Advisory Council has done this year, and I'm also very excited to be passing my position onto the next student board member in the upcoming weeks. Last week, we had a student board member application information session on Google Meet for any prospective applicants. I was able to answer questions and overview the application for this year. Applications for student board member and student board member alternate are due May 6th. More information is on our social media and Instagram account. Before I conclude my report, I would also like to bring attention to the unfortunate events surrounding Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders that have been occurring recently. The amounts of anti-AAPI hate crimes have increased significantly, and it breaks my heart to witness this racial prejudice and violence towards this group. Recently, the CSBA proposed a resolution that condemns violence towards the AAPI community, a resolution which I believe, as an Asian American myself, should be recognized and passed within our district. And with that, I would like to conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Board Member Chantel Martino, for your report. And we'll move to item H, the Superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Richardson. I wanted to provide some clarification to the board regarding our upcoming highest honor ceremony. This will be held on Wednesday, May 19th. So it's kind of confusing because there's a video that's going to be done, but there's also going to be an in-person event. And so it's going to be held at the Fairfield Sassoon Adult School in the front parking lot. And it's an individual ceremony. Only the student will exit their car. The students participating will be from all of our high schools. And we ask that if you can, it's from 4:30 to 7:30, but any of the board members who can make it for any or all of that, we encourage you to be there. The high school principals will be present, and our Fairfield Police Department partners will be helping with the traffic. Each school has been given a specific window of time where they will come and the cars will line up. and our students will receive their certificates and other gifts from our dignitaries. All the families will remain in their cars, and staff will be posted at different points to make sure we keep the cars moving. The prepared video will be released on social media at 7:30 p.m. that evening. And so it will, but the video is not of the event. So we're not going to take a video of the drive-through event. The video will be highlighting our highest honor students. I wanted to report to the board that our district each spring provides the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, otherwise known as the CASP statewide assessment. And we do this in English language arts and math to all students in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. This is a requirement from our state and our federal government. On April 9th, 2021, the California State Board of Education notified us that California will continue to provide all of the summative English language proficiency assessments for California, otherwise known as the LPAC for our English learners, and CASP, and for smarter balanced English language arts and mathematics statewide assessments where COVID circumstances do not make the statewide assessment the viable option. We may use our local administered assessments. So we don't have to do the CASP in addition to our locally administered assessments. And so in consultation with the Solano County Office of Ed, we are going to proceed with our plan, and we're going to be using the NWEA map for our spring assessment for grades 3 through 10. And then we will give the CASP for our 11th grade students. There's a component of the CASP that is important for our 11th grade students. And so I just wanted to give an update on that. So thank goodness we don't have to do the CASP for our elementary and middle grades. This is good news. Anybody who knows me knows that I believe strongly in, if we're going to have education where we're saying kids have to come to school, it seems to me like we should be able to feed them. And I know that we have some members of our public that may disagree with that, but we know the importance of having well-fed and nutritious meals for our students. One of the silver linings through COVID has been that we have received a waiver and we've been able to feed all of our students for free. And so great news, that waiver was extended through June 30th of 2022. And so we will be able to continue offering free meals for our students for the next school year. I also just want to talk about next school year. Speaking of, we have had questions as soon as we made the decision and had students start coming back on campuses. What about next year? And so right now, I just want to make sure everybody knows that the governor has stated that next year, the plan is that we are going to be back to in-person instruction full-time, and that districts should have the opportunity for those who want to remain in distance learning as an option. And last year, we scrambled, as you know, and built a very viable virtual academy for our students in grades kindergarten through 8th grade. We really encourage our elementary families from kinder to 8th grade that if they want to have that distance learning option for next year, to enroll in the virtual academy, because we can build it as big as our enrollment is. So that's really important for us to note. Our 9th through 12th grade students will receive their distance learning or their alternative, not in-person instruction through our independent study program. And so we can increase that in size depending on how many people we have that want to use that option. But we are at this time, and we always have to say at this point in time at 7:15 on this date, that that's our plan right now, and that is what we are preparing for. We don't know if things will change that will hinder our ability to return fully back to in person, but right now we are planning for that. And I just want to say, got to give a shout out to everybody involved in the reopening of schools. I've visited a number of campuses and gone into the classrooms, and it's been significant hard work. And it's been so heartwarming to see the joy on those who have come back and are really loving being back at school. And I wanted to touch on one thing that our Fsuda president said. I was talking to a new teacher who was just hired for this school year. Just this was the first teaching experience that this person had, and I know who this person is, and he got a intent to return form from Mr. Whittemore, and we send these out every year saying, "Do you intend to return next year?" And it was over spring break, and he said, "I didn't want to text you this. I thought I needed to tell you in person that I found that teaching wasn't for me. It's so hard, it's isolating, and I just was going to give it up." And then the kids came back. And he said, and my colleagues came back. More importantly, the colleagues came back. And suddenly we had teachers who came in, veteran teachers who came in and checked in on him and said, "How's it going? How are you doing? Hey, great to see you." And he said, "I've decided I kind of like this. I'm going to come back and give it another try next year." And so just a huge sense of appreciation for our teachers, our veteran teachers who came back and took our newer teachers under their wings and provided them that additional support. So thank you. And we're just really happy to see kids on campus. That ends my report.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent, for that report. We move to item 5, which is public communication. This is the opportunity for the public to address items that are not on the board meeting agenda. Public comment is only permitted on matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. We ask that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes, and the entire duration of public comment, actual speaking component, will be 30 minutes total, and that's of actual speaking, not just time spent on public comment. We do encourage all members of the community to maintain social distancing and keep their mask on at all times, even while presenting their comments. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comments for item 5?
Yes, we have 8 speakers. The first 2, Jacob Francisco and Angelo Velasco.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, members of the Governing Board, and members of the community. My name is Jacob Francisco, and I'm here speaking to you tonight as the Student Board Member alternate, but also a proud Filipino-American student within this district. Tonight, I wanted to address the uptick in harassment, violence, and hatred towards people of Asian descent. Anti-Asian hate crime in 16 of America's largest cities increased 145% in 2020, according to the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at CSU San Bernardino. Hate against Asian Americans is not a new thing. There was the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, the Japanese internment camps during World War II, and the LA riots that targeted Korean Americans in the early 90s, and many more instances of hate and violence against Asian Americans. The COVID-19 pandemic allowed for Asian Americans to be scapegoated. The most helpless group is being targeted, that being the elderly. This was infuriating to see happen all across the United States. One aspect of many Asian cultures is to respect your elders. Seeing such atrocities happen to those that can least defend themselves is wrong. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Almost 16% of students in FSUSD are AAPI according to the CDE. 16% of our students were potentially impacted by the slashing of the Filipino man's face in New York, or the Atlanta spa shooting that killed 6 women of Asian descent. All of these events have impacted our students in some way. The Fairfield City Council passed Resolution 2021-60, which condemns hate crimes, attacks, and attitudes against Asian American and Pacific Islander communities on their City Council meeting on Tuesday, April 6th. Together, we have a responsibility and a moral obligation to confront and eliminate institutional discrimination against all people, regardless of their race, sex, ethnicity, or gender, or even sexual orientation. One of the speakers on this item was Amit Paul of the Solano chapter of the Asian American Pacific Islander Public Affairs Association. Later on tonight, you'll be hearing from another representative from APAPA who will represent support to pass this resolution coming from CSBA. To close, I wanted to bring us back to the district's mission statement. In a safe, welcoming, and supportive learning environment, we provide innovative educational opportunities to develop resilient students who are inspired to succeed. Without the condemnation of violence, there is no safe learning environment. I, along with my colleague Chantel and my partners at Fsuda, strongly urge that this board adopt a resolution coming from the California School Boards Association, which was posted in March, titled Resolution Supporting People of Asian Ancestry and Condemning Harassment, Violence, and Hatred Towards People of Asian Descent, which you can find at tinyurl.com/CSBA resolution. Thank you for your time.
The next two speakers are Angelo Velasco and then Jack Flynn.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, members of the Governing Board, and members of the community. My name is Angelo Velasco, a senior and a proud Filipino American. We as a community here and as a nation have been dealing with one of the greatest catastrophes this century. COVID-19 has taken away many lives and left many more in shambles. But with this illness spread another virus, a social virus. Incidents of hate against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have increased greatly this past year, and they keep piling up. There are 3 on the front page of this newspaper alone. Andre Cadiz had rocks thrown at him in Los Angeles. CJ Guiado was punched outside of a bar in San Francisco, and a Filipino American healthcare worker was shoved from behind at random. And this was published 2 weeks ago. All of us here know that a lot can happen in 2 weeks. I've come here to urge you, distinguished members of the board, to pass the resolution supporting people of Asian ancestry and condemning harassment, violence, and hatred toward people of Asian descent. This came out from the CSBA in March in the wake of the cowardly attacks in Atlanta, Georgia. These are not isolated incidents, but have unfortunately become common occurrences from New York to right here in the Bay. The only way to fight this is to stand together in solidarity and say that we as a community, as a nation, will not tolerate abuse and violence against our brothers and sisters. We are your shopkeepers, your healthcare workers, your delivery drivers. We are your neighbors, your employees. We are your students. Passing this resolution and condemning this discrimination against us cements this district's support, not only for AAPI, but for a more peaceful and civilized society. Thank you very much.
The next two speakers are Jack Flynn, then Keith Ziomek.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, members of the Governing Board, and members of the community. My name is Jack Flynn. I am a junior at Early College High School and a student ambassador of Generation Up Fairfield Sassoon. I'm here tonight to ask the Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District to write a letter in support of California Assembly Bill 101, which is a bill in the California State Legislature that would make the completion of a one-semester course in ethnic studies a requirement to graduate high school in the state of California. As a student of Early College High School, in which I duly enroll in both high school and college classes, I especially feel that a letter from this governing board to support ethnic studies as a graduation requirement is critical. Every school day, I work and collaborate with both high school and college students in my classes. Through the experiences and conversations I've had, I feel that making ethnic studies a graduation requirement is so important to ensuring that our students are well-rounded and thoughtful citizens who understand the importance of learning about and respecting different cultures. Assembly Bill 101 would do exactly this by requiring high school students to take a one-semester course on ethnic studies before graduating high school. As a Fairfield State Unified School District student since August of 2009, I feel that this course would be a helpful and necessary addition to our graduation requirements as a district. This is especially true when considering the vision statement of our district, which reads, quote, FSUSD is a premier learning community that empowers each student to thrive in an ever-changing world. End quote. Think about what that vision statement means to our district. How can the Fairfield State Unified School District be a premier learning community if it does not prepare its students to become thoughtful citizens who have a thorough knowledge of different ethnicities and cultures? Can our students truly thrive in an ever-changing world if they do not have a complete understanding of other ethnicities and cultures? I believe that the answer to these questions lies in fact. In order for this district to be considered a premier learning community and for our students to thrive in an ever-changing world, ethnic studies must become a mandatory graduation requirement. I asked this district to draft a letter to the California State Assembly Appropriations Committee in support of Assembly Bill 101, in order to signal that the Fairfield State Unified School District is committed to adequately preparing the students to thrive in an ever-changing world. Thank you for your time and for your consideration.
The next two speakers are Keith Ziomek, then Carolyn Villarreal.
Hi, my name is Keith Ziomek, and I am a resident here in Fairfield. And I've been here since 1981 and have my children gone through the schools here and have enjoyed music programs throughout the time that they have been here. They're now adults and have moved on, but it's something which is near and dear to my heart. I have provided a pass out for all of you to see this. In it is the benefits of having music in the school, and I'm sure I don't need to say that to any of you. Music is a part of our life. Music is something that we listen to all the time, and it's an integral component to who we are. As the representative for the Music for Our Children organization, I would implore that these agendas, which I haven't even heard about yet, start to move forward so that we can fill those performing arts centers, which I just saw in the presentation that is going to be at a number of schools. Without the music, there's no performance at these performing arts centers. Please, I implore you, let's get on the stick with this one and let's make music happen here in Fairfield. Thank you very much.
The next two speakers are Carolyn Villarreal, then Kim Holzendorf.
Thank you, Superintendent Corey, President of the board, and the governing board members. My name is Carolyn Villarreal. I am a board member of the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs, or otherwise known as APAPA. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with a diverse membership of over 30,000 nationwide. At the time when all families are struggling with the threat of COVID-19, various communities and the Asian American Pacific Islander, or AAPI community in particular, are also suffering from the rise in hate crimes. In the last year, nearly 3,000 firsthand accounts of physical, verbal, and online attacks against those of the AAPI dissent were reported. AAPIs are fighting not just the COVID-19 pandemic, but an additional pandemic of hate and bigotry. APAPA is deeply disturbed with this trend and once again condemns these acts of hateful incidents that divide humanity. Today, nearly 1/3 of Americans have witnessed someone blaming AAPI for the coronavirus. 8 out of 10 AAPI youth report being bullied or verbally harassed due to their race. Elderly AAPI are being assaulted, tragically resulting in unnecessary deaths. Online hate speech and cyberbullying against AAPIs have increased 900% during the pandemic. In light of these disturbing trends, APAPA Solano chapter respectfully requests that the FSUSD governing board unequivocally condemn these acts of hateful incidents with a show of unity with their Asian Pacific Islander community. We ask that you calendar and adopt a resolution to denounce stigmatization, racism, and hate against members of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. The Papa Solano chapter sincerely appreciates your attention and consideration of this request. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Cam Holzendorf, then George Gwynn.
Superintendent Chris Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, everyone in attendance from parents to students, greetings. My name is Cam Holzendorf, and yes, that's Cam with a K. Today is Earth Day, and I would like to ask, what has the Fairfield Fsuc Unified School District done to enhance the community? If you can't answer that question, maybe you'll be able to answer it if you decide to join me as we clean up Ledgewood Creek this weekend. If not, maybe you have already reconsidered adopting a street in the name of the Fairfield Fsuc Unified School District. Or maybe you don't care about the community. But that's impossible since you're all Fairfield community members, right? Either way, it's time for you to step up for the community you live in or work in. And as you all know, attitude reflects leadership. If we as leaders of the great school district can come together and invest in our community through programs or a once-a-month sponsored cleanup by the FSUSD from joining what is preventing the rest of the community from joining our cleaning crusade? Just imagine all our schools getting in on this, adopting the surrounding communities, beautifying and making our city clean, and it requires a commitment from all of us. As always, the ball is in your court, and what move will you make to support your community? Moving forward, I want you to truly consider ethnic studies and their benefits for development of the generation and the future leaders of Fairfield. In this district, we reported to have 2,450 students, 20 elementary schools, 13 middle schools, and 7 high schools. Out of that 21,405 students, we have 80% minorities as 80 of that percent is 43% Hispanic population, 14% of that is Asian population, and 14% is African American population. Now that I broke that down, I hope whoever you hire for an educator or admin position understands the demographic before accepting their role. Before I proceed, I think it's a shame that as leaders, you, the leadership, has not advocated for or put out a statement that condemns hate against African Americans, Asians, and Pacific Islander minorities when we have a 80% student body of minorities. You didn't even consider the repercussions of the trial of the century if it didn't pan out correctly. What about your Black and brown students? What if they needed support? You didn't acknowledge the trial results. This is abhorrent and unacceptable as leaders that you have sworn to support the body that you wish to serve. In my view, ethnic studies are a real necessity and the benefit of an educational system because there's permanence of racism, sexism, xenophobia, and all forms of discrimination. We need opportunities for students, their own and other people, real indigenous history to disrupt in many of these. 30 seconds there. I'm going down. Basically, what I'm saying here is the question here we raised today is what are you willing to do to ensure that your students are benefiting from the educational experience and getting the right information about themselves?
The last two speakers are George Gwynn, then David Torres.
Good evening once again. This is George Gwynn, taxpayer advocate, a long time attendee of school board meetings. I can remember when working conditions used to be a lot harder than they are now for people. And at that point, at least in the private sector, there was some need for unions. Now, working conditions are a lot better. Anybody that's a teacher has a college degree, and they can negotiate their own work situation. There's a CAO for Solano County that's retired. He's taken almost $500,000 a year in retirement. Doesn't have to lift a finger to draw the money. Well, it filters down, and the taxpayers can't afford those kind of salaries for people that aren't productive anymore. So I think if the school board could work on trying to get people to negotiate their own deals as opposed to having a union that tends to bankrupt the taxpayer money for things that are really needed, you guys might move ahead a lot faster. Anyway, that's food for thought. And other thing, I think if people take care of their health, they get sleep, don't become overweight, their chance of having COVID vastly diminishes. And I think that we could get back to what used to be called normal and could do a lot of things that aren't being done now. I've never dreamed that this thing would go on for a year. And the thing that really bugs me is you're presumed guilty until proven otherwise, and you can't prove otherwise for the way the system's set up. So if you want to live a normal life, it's a lot harder now than it used to be. So let's hope this thing ends pretty soon, because we're past the 1 year mark, and I think that's way too much. The other thing too is that you need oxygen. The idea that if you cut your oxygen supply off, you're going to still be able to function doesn't work. Most people will probably do well to do 2 minutes, and I think the record is like 8 minutes. So if you wear a mask or have other things that encumber your breathing, that's not going to help you. So anyway, you guys need to think about those kind of things and don't just accept whatever the government tells you. Thank you very much, and talk to you again later. Bye-bye.
The last speaker at this point in the agenda is David Torres.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. I want to say a personal thank you to the board and Superintendent Corey for responding to some emails so quickly. For those of you who responded, my intention for tonight was actually to come talk about the full in-person instruction. But Superintendent Corey, you just completely wrecked my entire speech because you already publicly declared it. And that's what I was hoping for tonight, was to say, can you publicly declare your intention for full-time in-person instruction for the fall? And you did it. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And the reason why I did come to request that, I'll at least give you that, is first for accountability, hoping to keep you guys accountable to it. And then secondly, also because it's been a struggle with hybrid for many people. You know, I'm by the grace of God, my wife is at home every day. So she has to take my son to K.I. Jones in the morning, picks him up, and then takes my daughter all the way to Rodriguez, and then has to go back and pick her up. I can't imagine what it would be like for two working parents, much less a single parent. So it's got to be tough. So I'm just praying and hoping that you will, if you have the opportunity to fully open in the fall, that you will certainly do that. And now that you said it, I'm going to hold you to it. I'm holding you all to it. But I just wanted to say that just so we can all be prepared. There's so many of us parents, and many of you know I'm part of a pretty large parent group. We just need to be prepared for these things. And so we need to know ahead of time. We need to be prepared for how we're going to deal with sending our kids to school. We also, as parents, also want to prepare just in case we have to take up any kind of legal action. because we are at that point where schools do not fully commit to in-person instruction when you're able to. And if you guys choose not to, we will unfortunately have to go that route. And it's nothing personal, but it's just how it is now. We should have been open a long time ago. And so thank you, Superintendent Corey. You answered my question. And I just want to say thank you all for your work, and I hope you have a good evening. God bless you.
There are no more public speakers at this time.
Mr. Clerk, thank you. We move to item 6, the consent calendar. Board colleagues, are there any items that we would like to pull from the consent calendar? Board Member Tilley.
Thank you, President Richardson. I don't want to pull, but I would like to highlight before moving to approve the consent calendar, the proposed approval of Resolution 39, 2021, to support the grant submission to the Carl Moyer program. Happy Earth Day. This grant proposal will permit us to acquire 4 electric buses, which will serve our students in countless ways, and I can't think of a better night for it to be coming before us. With that, I would move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
There is no public comment.
Roll call vote.
Mrs. Honeychurch,
Aye.
Ms. Martino,
Aye.
Mr. Isom,
Aye.
Ms. Patero, Mr. Richardson,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Tilley,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
That motion passes. We move to item 11, Education Services. Review and potential approval of the revised FSUSD Low Performing Student Block Grant, the Lpspg plan. There is no presentation. Do we have any public speakers?
There are no public speakers on this item.
Do we have any clarifying questions, board colleagues, for the superintendent?
Yes.
Board Member Patero?
Thank you. I actually have a comment.
Okay, this is for clarifying question. We'll get to the discussion. Do you have any
Oh, I don't
clarifying
have
questions?
any clarifying questions.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
All right, board
Second,
discussion.
Stephanie.
Perfect. And board discussion. Board Member Patero, you can proceed.
Thank you, sir. I was just noticing this low performing block grant, and I noticed that according to the criteria, the funds from this grant cannot be used to further support English learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged, foster youth, or special education. So I would guess that this plan would only serve a small number of students. And I did a graph because I looked at all the schools that this applied to. And the majority of students in at least 8 of the 13 schools are more than 55 to 70% socioeconomically disadvantaged. So I'm wondering who this will serve. And second, the high percentage of the low performing students correlates to the number of classes that contain more than 33 students. So I did a whole thing on all 13 schools. Most of them are socioeconomically disadvantaged, and the majority of them were ethnic students. So in terms of stating that the high percentage of low performing students correlates to the number of classes that contain more than 33 students, to me, the obvious solution for these low performing students is smaller class sizes. That's all I have to say on this comment.
Thank you, Board Member Patero. Are there any other board discussion, colleagues? Okay, with that, roll call.
Ms. Martino,
Aye.
Mrs. Honeychurch, Mrs. Honeychurch, Mr. Isom,
Aye.
Ms. Patero,
No.
Mr. Richardson,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Tilly,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
That motion passes. We move to item 12, business services. We are going to attempt to run this as a slate. If I have that favorable for my colleagues, so we're going to run 12A, B, C, D, and E if there's no objections. Colleagues, is there any objection to run these as a slate?
No objection, Mr. President. Move approval on items A through E.
Second. Tilly.
Perfect. And for the consideration of our audience viewing and in person, I'm going to read each of the items before we vote. 12A, review and potential approval of award bid 2103-21 surveillance installation and server upgrades to Delta Wireless Incorporated. No presentation. Item 12B, review and potential approval of award of RFP number 2102-22 laptops to CDW Government LLC. No presentation. 12C, review and potential approval of award bid 21F-142 Fairview MPR window replacement to California Window Industries. No presentation. 12D, review and potential approval of closing associated student body time deposit certificate account for Armiel High School. No presentation. Last but not least, 12E, review and potential approval to dedicate memorial benches in honor of staff members at Sheldon Academy of Innovative Learning and Rolling Hills Elementary School. There is no presentation. Roll call vote.
Ms. Martino,
Aye.
Disregard, I'm sorry. I felt like we had a motion and a second. Board discussion.
I move approval.
Second. Tilly.
There was a
Okay.
there was a motion and a second already on the floor. He just didn't ask for our comments. That's all.
Okay, since there's no comments, roll call vote.
Ms. Martino,
Aye.
Mrs. Honeychurch,
Aye.
Mr. Isom,
Aye.
Ms. Patero,
Aye.
Mr. Richardson,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Tilly,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
That item passes. We move to item 13A, review and potential approval of resolution 40-2021, authorizing employment of an instructor to teach on a provisional internship permit, PIP. No presentation. Do we have any public comments?
There's no public comment.
Any clarifying questions, board
Move approval.
colleagues?
Second, Daphne.
Any board discussion? Roll call vote. Board colleagues, who made the first on that item?
David.
Ms. Martino,
Aye.
Mrs. Honeychurch,
Aye.
Mr. Isom,
Aye.
Ms. Patero,
Aye.
Mr. Richardson,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Tilly,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
That item passes. We move to item 14A, review and potential approval of the revised board policy 0470 COVID mitigation plan. This will be presented by Mrs. Kristen Witt. Do we have any public comments?
We have one public comment, Mr. George Gwynn.
Good evening once again. I'll make this really short. There's the possibility that somebody may be accused of Good evening. I'll make this really quick. There's a possibility that somebody may be accused of child abuse under this particular item. And if they actually are, then that's good. But if you have somebody that's falsely accused, that's bad.
Right, yeah, I gotta think here a minute.
That the efforts are made to make sure that the guilty get punished and the innocent stay innocent. So that's my only comment. Thank you very much.
There are no more public comments.
Thank you. Board colleagues, any clarifying questions regarding, I'm sorry, Mrs. Witt, you can begin your presentation.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, governing board members, and members of the community. During the April 9th, 2020 meeting, the governing board approved a temporary modification to the graduation requirements for the class of 2020. At that time, staff recommended the one-time modification as the expectation was that students would be returning for in-person instruction in August 2020. Given that students have been in distance learning since March 13th, 2020, staff is recommending that the board give the same consideration to the class of 2021 and the class of 2022. The California Education
Uh-oh, we have a little frozen piece. What I will say is that the California Education Code allows us to do this. I think we gave you a lot of information in your packet and the summary. So we request your support and approval.
Ms. Witt, don't look
Ms.
like that,
Witt,
please.
don't worry about it. We figured it out.
Ooh, the Google Meets is glitching. It's been glitching most of the board meetings, so there's delays, and you froze for a brief moment. So the superintendent did the courtesy
Don't
of
worry,
continuing.
we got it.
Okay.
Okay, that's funny. I'm sorry. That kind of threw me off for a second. Okay. So any clarifying questions, board colleagues, on that presentation?
I'm embarrassed that I can't locate this or my notes. What exactly are we being asked to approve?
We're asked to approve the reduction in credits for high school graduation for this year and for next year.
Move to approve.
Second.
Appears that there's no further board discussion.
One comment or question.
Okay, the Google Meet's not working very well today, so just let me know. So Board Member Tilley and Board Member Wilson. I'm sorry,
And-
Board Member
yeah.
Carroll.
You had your hand up first, Mr. Wilson. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, to clarify, does this move the requirements down to the state minimum period? That's what it does?
Yes, for this year. And then for next year, because we hope to be back, but our juniors this year have suffered. And so our goal is to reduce the elective credits for next year.
Thank you.
Yep. So this report, if it had been presented.
Board Member Patero.
Yes. Can you hear me? So this report lays out in paragraph form, if Ms. Witt was able to finish it, what the slides depicted in the presentation leading up to the reopening of campuses, including the process of services rendered to students, such as the student support, and I'm going to make a point in a second, instruction schedules, evaluation of academic progress following campus closure, opportunities for recovery, grading, health screening for students, student absence attendance, for those of you who are looking for your notes, social distancing, PPE, sanitation of facilities and equipment, food services, staff, follow-up on infections and contact tracing, non-discrimination based on medical condition or disability, community relations, and potential reclosure. So none of the above provides any link to the rationale for reducing graduation requirements. Furthermore, all of these concerns have been addressed throughout the academic year, and yet it took up until April for the district to make this decision. All the prep and teaching could have been adjusted and adapted at the beginning of the year to accommodate their students. These teachers have worked really hard. And then this proposal is illustrative of the further abuse to which the faculty in this district have been subjected. And 50 units less to graduate just reeks of passing the buck to the next level. That's my concern.
I'm concerned that there's been an accusation of abuse. That's concerning. I believe that when we disagree with an action, it ought not to be in an accusatory fashion. I don't believe that our staff, our administrators, or especially this governing board, our superintendent as the leader of this district, abuses anyone. And I'm hoping that when we make our comments, that they do not become comments where we accuse people of things that are just not true.
If I may, Mr. President, I came to this board from the lens of a grandmother, a taxpayer, and a teacher. And I can tell you right now that teachers are being abused. And I've told you this before when we went into hybrid teaching. I explained it to all of you. Teachers are doing two jobs, two days of teaching in one day. That's what they're doing. In addition to that, they don't have the option of going home. So you have teachers stuck in the classroom. And as Mr. Torres just said, they have to take one child to school in the morning, one in the afternoon. If you're a teacher in this district and you have 2 children or 3 children, which some do have, they're going from different schools and have to come back to school to teach the students in the afternoon. That is abusive, not only to the teachers, it's abusive to the students who are online having to be subjected to that.
Thank you, Board Member Patero. Board Member Tilly.
As an advocate, Mr. President, for persons who actually experience domestic abuse, sexual abuse, I believe that we should use language outside of those types of accusatory languages. This is very troubling to me as someone who advocates against abuse and who has a degree in that same field.
Thank you, Board Member Isom. There's Board Member Tilly, please excuse the delays. There's a brief delay that's causing for you to speak on top of each other. I don't believe that's intentional. Board Member Tilly.
I'd like to move the prior question.
Second, Wilson.
Roll call vote.
Ms. Martino,
Aye.
Mrs. Honeychurch, Mr. Isom,
Aye.
Ms. Patero,
No.
Mr. Richardson,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Tilley, Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. That item passes. We move to
Ms. Honeychurch, are you on?
I believe she's having some technical
Yeah, she is.
difficulties.
Okay, sorry.
We move to item 15A, which is the discussion on the local control and accountability plan, the Lcap goals and actions. This will be presented by Dr. Sheila McCabe. Do we have any public speakers?
There are no public speakers.
Dr. McCabe, you can begin your presentation.
Thank you. Give me just a moment while I pull up my presentation. Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Richardson, and members of the Governing Board. I'm delighted tonight to provide an update on the district's local control and accountability plan. As a reminder, this is a 3-year plan that describes our district's goals, actions, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes. The plan must be aligned to the 8 state priorities, and it is a plan that gets updated each year over the 3-year period. The Lcap includes a budget overview for our parents, an annual update from our prior state plan, information about stakeholder engagement, and identification of our goals and actions. In addition, we must outline how we're going to provide increased services for our students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, English learners, and foster youth. A key element of the district's Lcap is that it's based on stakeholder input. I'm often told by the Solano County Office of Education that we have one of the most robust processes for ensuring effective stakeholder engagement. Last year, we gathered significant stakeholder feedback, and the top 5 areas of our stakeholder recommended are addressed in the plan you can see on the slide. Often people think that this is Sheila's plan or the Educational Services Plan, and this couldn't be further from the truth. In addition to multiple meetings with parent leaders, DLAC, which is our District English Learner Advisory Committee, our Student Advisory Council, and not to mention the stakeholders from last year, we have an Lcap Advisory Committee that has reviewed and provides recommendations on the plan. Our Lcap Advisory Committee has been meeting since February and includes representatives from Fsuda, CSEA, APA, management, our students, and we've added also representatives from our foster youth community, our parent leaders, DLAC, and our SELPA. I'm grateful for their commitment to ensure our district has a plan that is reflective of many voices in our community. I do want to share that our most recent meeting was on Tuesday night of this week, where they were able to review the recommendations that are coming forward for discussion tonight with our governing board. During our last presentation, we reviewed the potential goal statements in priority order. Our focus tonight is on the actions associated with each of these goal statements. During the February meeting, and based on recommendations from the Lcap Advisory Committee, the board provided direction to have social emotional wellness be our top goal. I think when you listen to the Student Voices presentation this evening, because when we talk about social emotional wellness, social emotional health, that is directly in line with the mental health supports that our students discussed during Student Voices. The actions associated in this goal include defining what is social emotional learning. One of the things that has come to light really over the input from the last few stakeholder groups is that as a district, we need to really define what we mean when we talk about social emotional learning, as well as developing a multi-tiered system to support our students in their social emotional needs. Some examples, just even from tonight's presentation, when board member Martino talked about tier 1 around the self-care activities on that list, fit into what we're talking about when we describe tier 1 on this slide. And the students talked about the need for support groups, which is part of what would happen with our tier 2 and tier 3 discussions from this slide. The goals also include the expansion of the Healing Centered certification that we are providing currently for our staff. And I should say, from our staff that are participating in it, we are hearing very positive feedback. Additional actions include providing supports for our most at-promise students, including our social emotional support for staff and a parent education program that is aligned to this tiered system talked about on the previous slide. Oh, I jumped ahead. I'm sorry, I got one slide too far. Our second goal focuses on every student receiving an equitable, high-quality education. Actions in this goal include expanding and enhancing our career technical education program. It also includes focusing on curriculum instruction, particularly in the areas of literacy and mathematics. It also calls out having our staff and curriculum council, which includes parents, staff, and community members, review our current ethnic studies course offerings to ensure their alignment with the newly adopted state ethnic studies model curriculum guide. The plan calls out for actions around ensuring our students are college and career ready with a focus on academic counseling. This goal also includes This goal also includes actions specific to meeting the needs of our students who are English learners, as well as meeting the needs of our students who receive special education services. Goal 3 calls for the implementation of a staffing plan that includes aggressive recruitment and professional learning to hire, develop, and have staff that we're able to retain. Actions associated with this goal include recruitment, onboarding new staff, and implementing strategies so that staff feel connected and remain in FSUSD. It's focused on attracting and retaining staff that is reflective of our diverse community. This goal also focuses on professional development for all staff in the organization, and this slide highlights some of the key topics for the 21-22 school year. Goal 4 focuses on creating safe, inclusive, and welcoming environments for our staff and students. I do want to mention that this is a slight modification of the wording of the goal based on the input from our Lcap Advisory Committee. Our goal previously focused solely on the welcoming environment for our students, and the Lcap Advisory Committee felt that it was important that we also added language about our staff, and so that has been added to this goal. Actions include developing and implementing activities where students can feel connected to their schools. The action also includes ensuring facilities are welcoming, well-maintained, and particularly cleaned. Additional actions include a focus on creating environments that are welcoming to parents and community members, as well as implementing a plan to showcase the great activities taking place in FSUSD. Goal 5 is all about engaging our parents, families, and community partners, and it's been very interesting in receiving stakeholder input this year, particularly in meeting with our District English Learner Advisory Committee and our parent leaders. The greatest focus, I would say, is really around providing professional development and support for our families as they work to support their children. I think they've learned a lot, as have we, through everything with distance learning. You'll notice this action. You'll notice that there is action in this goal regarding welcoming parents as authentic partners. A message we heard loud and clear from our parent leaders and our DLAC is that this continues to be an area of growth. The goal also includes an action to develop volunteer network for individuals that can then support our learning community. Our parent leaders and DLAC committee also stress the importance of maintaining current family support, such as the Family Resource Center, our coordinator of parent and family engagement, attendance liaisons, and community outreach liaisons. The plan includes a parent professional development strand so that parents have the opportunity to receive more information on district initiatives and ways that they can support this work at home. Finally, the plan includes a return of printed report cards. A few years ago, we transitioned to online report cards as a cost-saving message. We received significant feedback during this process that while some families' online report cards work, for many families, it's resulted in a greater disconnect between the parents and the schools. Before I end tonight's presentation, I wanted to just walk through with you what the next steps are. Tomorrow, we are going to be submitting a draft Lcap to the County Office of Education. And what they do with that draft is they ensure that all of the metrics that we have included meet the state guidelines. And so their first review of the plan is to ensure compliance. In May, we will be meeting with the District English Learner Advisory Committee, the Parent Leader Advisory Committee to review the plan. And then we've also added one more additional Lcap Advisory Committee in May because we didn't get through everything we needed to get through in the meetings that we had. So we needed to add one more meeting to make sure that they have that opportunity to give the final input to the plan before we bring it forward to the board for review and potential approval. We will have the full plan for you in June. At that time, it also gets presented to the public. So it'll go on our website. It'll be a hard copy in the district office. So individuals can review the plan and provide public comment. As part of also everything that is provided, we will provide a response to the comment, and the comments and the responses are then part of the documentation that comes forward to the board in the second meeting in June. We anticipate the board will be able to approve the LCAP at the second meeting in June, and then it gets submitted to the county. The official document gets submitted to the county, and it is expected that it has to be to the county before the end of June. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation back over to Superintendent Corey and Board President Richardson for board discussion.
Thank you, Dr. McCabe. I just want to highlight our staff and all the work that has gone into this. As Dr. McCabe mentioned, our district has been highlighted for going above and beyond in seeking input. When you talk about a local control accountability plan, the whole purpose of this was to give the local communities control over what's happening in their school district. And so there's been a lot of input sought from our community members and various stakeholder groups that have brought us to this presentation and draft tonight.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Board colleagues, do we have any clarifying questions for the superintendent? I see Board Member Smith, followed by Board Member Tilley, and then Board Member Patero.
Superintendent Corey, when the presentation was being given, it said, excuse me, Dr. McCabe said something about goal 4 now encompassing staff, and I'm not seeing that reflected in the presentation. Is that a change yet to come?
Yes, it is. This was new, just happened since we posted this presentation last Friday.
Board Member Tilley.
I think I may be out of order. I just wanted to express that I had the pleasure of attending the parent leader meeting last week as a board member without speaking. And not only is it an amazingly impressive group, but it was so fun to listen to them talk about why they need paper report cards again. Many of them have teenagers, and teenagers are students in the district. And somehow these parents are not being able to connect or get detailed information regarding their children's functioning when they're forced to go online. Many of them love the apps that we're using and the digital, but giving accountability to high school students through making sure that a postcard gets mailed home, maybe to someone who has issues around language or access to technology, is a great move. And I just wanted to applaud that, and also to applaud the efforts of our parent leader groups in providing input to the Lcap.
Thank you, Board Member Tilley. Board Member Patero, did you have a question? Again, the Google Meet is kind of glitchy today, so I just want to make sure that I didn't miss an opportunity for you. Can you unmute, please?
There. Ready for my comment? So page 9 on 15A states create a menu of evidence-based tier 3 interventions, which with each school providing a plan for how to implement at the scale that would be needed in a well-functioning MTSS structure. I'd like the public to understand this. I reread the guide to understanding California MTSS. This is part of the Lcap. And the Lcap and MTSS alignment page. And I'd like the public to understand why I vehemently oppose this MTSS framework for several reasons. One, I was not impressed with the conflicting explanations laid out in the presentations, primarily with regard to social emotional learning, re-regulating, which was in a presentation done for me, and environment. For example, number 2, the healing-centered engagement, according to its own founder, Dr. Ginwright, healing-centered engagement is an asset-based and culturally rooted approach to healing and well-being for young people of color. However, when I posed a question to the district, the response I received was MTSS is a framework that structures our approach to instruction and intervention and therefore serves all students in our district. Number 3, the research suggests that this framework is discriminatory and targeted toward minorities, when 4, the solution is, and I've said this before, smaller class sizes. Under the conditions of learning in the Guide to Understanding California MTSS, teachers are fully credentialed to teach their subject area. It's right in here. When one of the superintendent's Friday letters included the hiring of 26 teachers who do not meet the state certification or licensure requirements, and who are assigned to 11 Title I schools. When I asked why, the superintendent said that maybe they were from out of state, interns, or substitutes. That does not meet the standard of fully credentialed teachers that's outlined in here. According to the CSBA roundup today, the Modesto Bee reported that Modesto City Schools Equity and Racial Justice Task Force recommended and their board approved increasing teacher diversity and analyzing teacher placement to ensure that experienced educators are in place in high-need schools. The second recommendation was to assess teacher-to-student ratio at school sites in terms of ethnicity. Evidently, that's not done here at FSUSD because 13 of the identified schools in agenda item number 11A, 8 were majority minority, and 5 of the 8 schools have more than 33 students in their classes. Moreover, there are a couple of schools that have teachers teaching outside of their subject area, and just yesterday, at the governance subcommittee, governance subcommittee revised the job description for paraprofessionals from the required 60 units to 48 units. Their explanation was that other districts have lowered the unit requirement. We have a better recruitment pool and to be hired and move on to permanent positions. To be clear, 60 units is a required transferable units to a university, which is the equivalent of an AA degree. It was suggested that maybe we should remove the AA requirement and then just reduce it to 48 units. Reducing a requirement to 48 units is an entire semester of courses. Do you think we think so little of our
Mr.
students?
President, are we talking
Order,
about,
lower.
are we
Yes.
talking about the
Hang
governance
on.
subcommittee?
We're talking about this. Yes.
Point of order.
No, hang on and
Board,
explain.
board member Patero, the agenda item that we are speaking to is relevant to the LCAP. The
I know,
question,
and I'm adding to it. I'm
Ma'am,
trying to link to it. And here it is.
ma'am, did you have any clarifying questions regarding the LCAP goals and actions that were presented for the superintendent?
I'm talking about the board discussion, and I'm also talking about a component, hang on, a component that's in the presentation, and it was on page 9 that I identified. I'm still finishing my point. And I'm still identifying this piece of paper for the audience to know that this is what they're approving. On the same, and I don't know how many people read this, on the same page, it says students are provided with motivating programs, coursework, and opportunities where they feel respected. We do not have a robust music or art or in our elementary schools. In her book, We Want to Do More Than Survive, Abolitionist Teaching, and hang on, art education in schools is so important because many dark children, art is more than classes or a mode of expression. It is how dark children make sense in this unjust world and a way to sustain who they are. So here, so according to bylaw 9000 B 3D, in order to provide support to the superintendent and staff as they carry out board direction by being knowledgeable about district programs and efforts in order to serve and be an effective spokesperson, I did further research regarding multi-tiered systems of support and social emotional, because that is my job. And that's part of board policy 9000. So in doing my research to be a better spokesperson, by being knowledgeable about district programs according to our own bylaws, review of education research. I did some research because we need to know. So according to Review Education Research, in June 2009, in an article entitled Reflecting on Social Emotional Learning and Critical Perspective on Trends in the United States, while currently stressing links between SEL and academic achievement program literature also places emphasis on the ideas of caring, community, and diversity. However, recommended practices across programs tend to undermine these ideals by focusing on emotional and behavioral control strategies that privilege individualist models of self. SEL in practice thus becomes another way to focus attention on measurement and remediation of individual deficits rather than a way to redirect educators' focus toward relational context in the classroom. Another source, Washington Post, February 18, 2019, in an article entitled The Good News Social Emotional Learning is Hot. The bad news, some of it is giving cognition a bad name.
Excuse me, Board President, I'm waiting to hear a question. I don't hear a question, Board President.
It says board discussion. I'm discussing.
This is an information
No,
item.
ma'am.
Yes,
This is an information item, Board Member
and
Patero.
I'm well within my right on bylaw 9,000 to be more informed, and I'm trying to inform the public of what it is that they're doing because this isn't right.
May,
And so
may
let
I,
me
may I,
finish this.
may I speak, please? I would just like
I'm not
just
done.
ask,
So,
as
Board
Member Patero is sharing, if we can pull up slide
Member
number
Patero.
6.
Board Member
I'm
Patero.
asking that as Board Member Patero is sharing, if we can pull up slide number 6, because it appears that slide number 6 shows everyone who was involved in this putting together. So I just want to make sure that as she shares, that we know the advisory committee, the student advisory council, the parent leader advisory committee, or DLAC, none of them are aware of any of these items that.
And I would like them to be aware because it turns out the people who prepared our own agenda the last meeting didn't even know what was on the agenda because one of the people I'm quoting was one of the people who does workshop for this district. And that's who I'm quoting. It's really sad to me that some people don't know what's on the agenda who actually put it together. And that's what I'm speaking to.
I move we end discussion of this item.
I want to finish my last sentence. The
Second.
frameworks and programs are superfluous and they do not mention the fact that they're discriminatory and oppressive and the solution is staring us in the face. That's what I'm talking about with the goals. We need to hire more teachers and decrease class sizes. That's how we alleviate all of this stuff. All of these extra programs are a waste of money for this district and it's discriminatory to our students. That's what I wanted to get here.
Thank you, Board Member Patero, for your feedback. Any other board discussion?
Would you like another one?
This item is information only, and it will come back to us for review in the future. We move to item 16, information items, business services. This is a written report, review of financial statement for month ending March 2021. There is no presentation. Do we have any clarifying questions for the superintendent? I see none. Any discussion by the board? We move to item 21. We move to item 21, which is adjournment. Tonight, we adjourn our meeting in the honor and memory of Harold Jones, retired FSUSD teacher, and Aaron McFarland, paraeducator at Cleo Gordon Elementary School, and son of Andrea McFarland, teacher at Cleo Gordon Elementary School. May they rest in peace, and may their memories be a blessing. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership.